So I've been playing Immortals of Avium lately, and what that has solidified for me is the notion that most games should be made in third person. The first person perspective has inherent limitations, specifically with the terms of like enemy design and environmental interactivity. When you are playing in first person, the fact that it just takes you moving your entire camera view around just to move backwards or move in a particular direction means that at the end of the day, in action adventure games that happen to be first persons, I don't end up moving that much because turning my camera away from my enemy makes it really, really hard for the developers to program around that behavior, meaning that the enemies keep shooting at me. So, for example, in Immortals of Avium, there was a moment where I'm going up against a boss and I realized that I want to be on an elevator platform. Problem is, that platform is behind me. So what I do is that I turn the camera around and I start running towards where I want to be, moving myself to a more advantageous location. And in the meantime, the enemy boss is creating a one-shot attack. That, because I cannot see coming since my camera is turned away, pretty much ends up killing me every time before I get to this platform. The advantage, if this had been a third-person game, would of course be that the camera can still be pointed at my enemy, and I will be able to move in 360 degrees, in front of that. Like it will be no issue. So that was one of many, many instances where I was like, oh, this first person camera really limited the game design and really limited my ability to take agency of the combat encounter. Because that was one particular situation that was frustrating, but it wasn't the only one. And I just found myself like unable and unwilling, not unable, but unwilling to move throughout the environment because I couldn't scan as many things at the time. The developers were quite, I guess, generous in the way that they put supply cache throughout the different combat encounters that you may come to. But essentially, because moving around was always disadvantageous, especially in combat encounters where I have enemies all around me, I'm always going to be turning my back to at least two or three of them that are always going to be in the middle of the attacks, right? There is a shield in the game, but the shield is only what's in front of you, which makes sense, no problem. But what I meant is that I simply could not afford to roam around the arena and, really plan my strategies as to when to heal and when to not. Basically, every time a combat encounter began, it was actually better to have my back to a wall because at least I would know that enemies wouldn't randomly spawn behind me, which they do if you're in the middle of a open room. Um, and then just do a battle of attrition. I will just try to create more damage to them than they can to me within a given amount of time, using the whatever amount of heals I have available when I walked into that combat situation. And it was only after every single combat encounter that I would then walk through the arena and realize, oh yeah, there was like three heals over here or two, you know, big magic recharges over here, and it's quite frustrating. So I think Immortals of Avium, much like Forspoken, is a game that will benefit from having a sequel. And I would hope that they will change the camera angle to be a third person game, on top of making, certain things about the game better. But in any case, I want to quickly talk about Star Wars Outlaws. Now, I have had no issue with Star Wars Outlaws so far, other than the fact that it's a Star Wars IP. My big overarching issue with Star Wars is that it was not written to be this big expanded universe. So there are a lot of rules that are not defined, but also there is a kind of sacred timeline, bringing something over from Loki. There's a continuity that they are so reticent to leave, and that means to me that, whether it is Cal Kestis, or this particular new protagonist, they can never be that important. They can never be important enough to have affected the events of the game because okay, here's my theory. I think that Star Wars games would be better if they occupied their own continuity. So, for example, I think this one is coming from Ubisoft. You could have had a moment where EA created Cal Kestis and kind of had an impact on the game, and he will be allowed to have an impact even in the main movies with the main characters that you love, the Luke Skywalkers, the Han Solos, and everything like that, because it will be one continuity. Now, with Ubisoft creating their own entry, they will have the option of either tying in to this whole game continuity so that it's kind of an overarching whole, or they would have the opportunity to create their own continuity with their protagonists, and then they could interact with their version of the Luke Skywalkers and everything like that. I think that will make it a lot more, just a lot better all around. That's my theory. I know that a lot of people, they kind of like having the one kind of like continuous narrative thing, but after what Disney did with the last three, movies, what, that timeline is not so sacrosanct anymore. So I think we could just leave it. Now, main topic today. I want to talk about Hellblade 2, but I don't want to talk so much about the game as much as the rollout of the game. The game to me is still Hellblade. And Hellblade is still one of the games that I actually really, really like it the most. Okay, you can check my trophies. I've played the first game, and no, I didn't play the first game in like the last year or two. I played it quite a while ago. Um, and I've always thought it was a great game. I've always looked to the sequel of Hellblade 2, but I look to it to do what I'm asking Immortals of Avium to do. Don't just give me the same thing. Give me distinct, huge improvements, not just marginal, not just the same thing with a new coat of paint, but give me real, tangible, big steps kind of improvements. And that's because the first game had some really obvious flaws. Puzzles were not that interesting. Enemy variety was not good at all. I never really liked the combat. I thought it was paper wet. What I actually found was interesting in Hellblade is that though the game never tells you, you can do amazing combos in that game if you were to take the time to find out and kind of play it almost like a fighting game where the timing of your inputs really determines the kind of combat output that you get, or if not the timing of your inputs, then at least the sequence of your inputs is going to really determine the kind of combo that you get out of it. So while most people know about the first two or three basic combos, it actually went really deep. In that way, it's a little bit like Stellar Blade, because in Stellar Blade you have a similar situation wherein depending on your inputs, you will get vastly different results out of it, and some of them are way more advantageous for some situations than others. So improve the combat, improve the enemy variety, improve the puzzles, but also improve some of the mood and the environment if you were going to do it, because I didn't want to just be stuck inside my head again. I wanted it to be something where there is an overarching story and other people have to deal with sort of like Senua's particular condition. And every single thing that they said from the reveal 4.5 years ago or something seemed to be hitting that note. Like I was actually really looking forward to Hellblade 2. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't necessarily come across as like the biggest Hellblade fan because, to be honest, I don't really have a lot of trust in Microsoft. I don't. Microsoft is like Ubisoft to me. Even if they are in possession of a character and an IP that I really do care about and I really do root for, the fact that it is under their supervision makes it a little bit iffy. I treat them exactly the way that I treat Ubisoft and the way that I treat EA with BioWare, because EA ruined BioWare and I will never ever forgive EA for ruining BioWare, especially Mass Effect 3. I still haven't forgiven them for that, and I never will. It will always be beyond me. Every single time that I pray and I say, Lord, forgive me for my sins as I forgive others for theirs, I think there's a caveat there, and the Lord knows there's an asterisk that says, I would never forgive EA for what they do in Mass Effect 3. And if I did that, I would never forgive them for Dragon Age 2. And if I did that, I will never forgive them for Dragon Age Inquisition. Not because Inquisition wasn't good. I actually really liked Inquisition. I put like 150 hours into it. But for what they did to the developers. And I feel like the reason that we don't have Dragon Age Dreadwolf yet is because those developers were completely fed up what EA did to them and they left. So fuck EA. Now that we have established that my forgiveness has quite obvious limits, let's talk a little bit about the whole actual Hellblade 2. So I'm looking forward to the game and everything that they said in like the past 3.5 years. Let's say before January this year was sounding good. Better combat, better visuals, obviously. Just better, better, better. Photogrammetry. Remember how proud they are of the technology that you use, like That the first one, motion captured game combat. Okay, cool. Like a lot of other games use motion capture for their performances, but hey, whatever, right? It was sounding good. And also they had other characters. So I thought, okay, good. Finally, people will be reacting to how you are as a person at cinema and everything like that because I just thought that would be the next kind of narrative push. And they will still do that. The story is not something that I'm particularly concerned with. I am not uh I am reticent to believe that it's going to be great because they haven't really detailed anything that's going to make me think there's going to be anything special. But it could just be one of those kind of like ace they keep up the sleeve to be like, yeah, you're going to walk into this game thinking that, oh, it's just going to be whatever. And then boom, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 stories. So I hope that is the case. And I'll keep holding out hope for that one. Here's my issue. The coverage around Hellblade 2 in this previous season has been incredibly dishonest. My last video, I showed you how dishonest and disingenuous IGN was. Now I'm going to show you how dishonest and disingenuous Digital Foundry is. I've spoken about Digital Foundry recently and I told you that I don't like them. I truly don't like them because they are dishonest. It's what it is, and I feel like they want me to pretend to be dumber than I am. But today, I really wanted to make the point because I think now they're just taking the piss. So let's take a look at this now. First things first, this is from Eurogamer. This is Digital Foundry's reviews. This is written by Oliver Mackenzie. I will have this particular article out in the description so you can go and you can immediately click on it. You don't have to go look everywhere. Secondly, we are not going to be watching the video. Digital Foundry's videos are borderline useless and they use it to cover up. They use the footage and everything else that's going on to cover up some of the things that they say. And third thing is that we are not going to be reading directly from this article. I have pulled out extracts for the article to make the point that I want to make, but please believe that every single line that I'm putting here is from this article. It is from the words written on this page. It comes from no other source than this particular page. I've highlighted some things and it was easier to do that in Word than it was to try and find out a way to highlight directly on the article itself. So that's why I'm going to take that approach. Also, the sentences that I will show you are done in chronological order. And even if some are shorter than others, I haven't transplanted words next to each other to make it seem like the sentence is saying something that it wasn't. So again, if you want to test my accuracy or my honesty, you can just go and read the original article anyway, and then you're going to see those things. It's just that in the article, the sentences might be 20 or 40 phrases apart, which kind of lessens the point that I want to make. So that's why I've decided to do this. So we're going to just jump into it right here. So the first problem that I had with this particular preview analysis thing that they're doing, whatever they're calling it, is that it seemed like it was written by two different people, or rather, it seemed like it was written by one person, but about two different projects, and the person has somehow not understood that those projects were completely different. What I've ultimately found out is that this isn't an analysis of the game, it is a preview commentary on two completely different things. One is really focused on the cinematics of the game. And one thing you need to understand is that certain games these days have moved to real time cinematics. That is, if you are wearing a shirt, if you're wearing a particular disguise, whatever it is, like your cosmetics of your character, whatever it is rendered in real time, and that means that you get to carry that all the way through. That's cool. Some have gone even further. Some games nowadays, especially if you take a look at The Last of Us Part 1 to The Last of Us Part 2 and the remastered versions, the PS5 native versions, they have tried to push for a version of it so that the character model in game is the exact same character model in the cinematic. Now, how successful they are at doing that one to one can be argued. I think Naughty Dog does it quite well. Other companies have tried to do the same, but they have been a little bit less successful. So, what you need to understand about Hellblade cinematics, though, is that these are pre rendered cinematics from everything that we can see. There is a huge snapback in terms of the quality of the character model when you leave the cinematic to when you go back in the game. So what that means is this: you are basically watching pre-rendered videos. And so this first part over here, it seems that the person did not realize that they were watching pre-rendered videos and that there is a tremendous drop off in the quality of the things they are seeing when they go back in the game. But don't let me put that in your head. Let's just read this as if this was all about the game, and you tell me about the schizophrenic nature of this particular writing. Again, I'm sorry for using the term schizophrenic. I know that there are some people that actually have schizophrenia and it is a whole thing. Some people live with them, but there is just something, let's say, there's something dual-sided about the way that this is person's writing. So let's take a look. It says here, Senua's Hellblade 2 is shaping up to be one of the most visually exciting games of the year, right? Emphasis on visually exciting. Later on, Ninja Theory's cinematic sequel should be making excellent use of Epic's Unreal Engine 5, producing some truly stunning results, right? Again, this is what they're setting you up with. So this is towards the beginning of the article. Hellblade 2 is just on another level in almost every respect. Read that again. Hellblade 2 is just on another level in almost every respect in terms of core technology. We go again. The game also indulges, okay, in a lot of post-processing niceties, right? So they have a lot of post-processing effects, but look here, it is described as a nicety. So this is a cherry on top. This is the what is it? What was that powdered sugar thing that they put on top of waffles? Yeah, this is that. This is that powdered sugar. It's called icing sugar. Yes, this is the icing sugar on top of the waffles. This is the strawberries on top of the cheesecake. This is the Nutella dripping on top of the crepe. This is the cream on top of the pancake. As you can tell, I'm a big fan of dessert. Okay, including a beautiful depth of field. Okay, read that. That's in green for a reason. It's a beautiful depth of field which smoothly transitions between focal points. Okay, great, right? That's exactly what you want. It's very cinematographic, it's very filmic, it's very beautiful. And it's got this depth of field and everything. Now, again, if you take a moment back, just for a second, and you think to yourself, wait, but other games have had depth of field, other games have had post processing, other games have indulged themselves in stunning graphics, but this one here is visually exciting with truly stunning results and is just on another level, okay, in almost every respect. Okay, we continue. Motion blur is similarly strong. Okay, now over here, this use strong, but look how they spin it without obtrusive sampling artifacts, even when we zoom in on still frames. So over here, the motion blur here, although it is strong, it is seen in a positive light. And I can tell you, if you watch the video, all of this is being said as B-roll of the cinematic side of the game is playing. Now, we're going to go, and this is the exact same article, and we're going to go through the next part. And this is the part where the person is analyzing the game, but I want you to see if you can tell a disconnect. Okay, so we're just going to go down because I've gathered the sentences. Okay, speaking further, they say the game remains quite soft, especially in motion, though a lot of this seems to stem from very aggressive post processing. So, if you want the context of this sentence, they were saying that before Microsoft sent them this raw, rendered video that is high quality, they were looking at videos from the trailers, and then they know that YouTube's encoding can soften things, and they don't really know how that was captured. So it was looking soft back then, and now it remains quite soft when they have the pristine version in their hands. And they say, especially in motion, and this is due to very aggressive post processing. But why is a post processing seen as a negative here when just up here you were talking about there's a lot of post processing niceties? Does that sound strange to you? But they go on. They say the usual suspects show up here: motion blur, depth of field, chromatic aberration, and film grain. Wait. Weren't you just talking about how the motion blur Didn't have any obtrusive sampling. Didn't you just talking about how it had the beautiful depth of field? Is this the same game we are analyzing? Is this the article written about the same game? Because over here, in the introduction to the article, it's so beautiful, rosy words. We love the depth of field. We love the motion blur. Even though it is present and maybe we wish it would. No, 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 no. It's so good because it doesn't have any obtrusive sampling. But then over here, you come and you told me that, oh, it's soft and this stems from very aggressive post-processing, and then you call it the usual suspects. Oh, the motion blur, oh, the depth of field, chromatic aberration, and film grain, which do end up blurring the image somewhat. Okay, cool. Next sentence. Hellblade 2 is unique here in that these effects seem unusually high quality. Okay, so here's that kind of duality again. Here's that schizophrenia again. It's unusually high quality. Oh, there's the compliment. And unusually pervasive. And there's the backhand. Why is there a backhanded compliment if you were so into the graphic presentation and remember it was delivering truly stunning results? Remember, this is the same article just a few sentences ago. This is where we were. Did you see any negative here in the introduction? No. And again, if you're like, oh, Emmanuel, surely they must have, go and watch the video because this is the script to the video, or go and just read the article so it can be in front of you. Because the problem with the video is information comes and goes. The written word is better at letting you retain that information and compare it side by side. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? That's weird. I find it weird. Okay, let's go. Now it says here, the film grain in particular seems quite harsh. So hopefully the game ships with an option to disable it. Now, I haven't got this sentence in this particular sampling that I did here, but I can definitely tell you these people praise it for the cinematic look. But yet, what film grain, which lends credence to the cinematic approach, the cinematic artistic lifestyle, oh, sorry, artistic style, now you find that to be harsh and you want to turn it off? Isn't that weird? Okay, let's continue. Okay, there's also some image breakup in motion. Okay, so over here, when I talk about the image breakup in motion, they are talking about when you're actually playing the game. They're talking about the parts of the game preview footage that were given where the person is actually controlling the character. So in motion there, it's an issue. Even though before the motion blur was not an issue at all, right? So how come motion is bad, but it's good, but it's bad again? Then it says Hellblade has a blurred, slightly artifact-prone quality in fast motion. Okay, so again, motion here is bad, okay? With the letterboxing effect, it's more like 23 to 2304 by 964 to 2560 by 1070. This is lower than 1080p. I mean, okay, it's not exactly lower than 1080p resolution because if you take a look at 2560 by 1080, the standard 1080p resolution for a 16 by 9 screen is I think 1920 by 1080. So this is 2560 by 1080, which means that it's because of the letterboxing effect. Because what they're doing is that this is on a 4K screen, and I tell you that they have 1080p. This will be pixels in a vertical direction. So they don't say whether this is like the internal resolution that's just going to be upscaled to something a little bit greater. They don't say it, so I'm not going to say it. But we're going to take a look back at this moment later because believe it or not, this is all on the Series X. None of this is, because I thought this here was the Series S version and this here was the Series X version. No, 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 no. From what I understand, this is the Series X version, both of them. It's just dynamic as in it fluctuates between these points. So on the Series X, you get less than 1080 pixels vertically. Like it doesn't matter how you do the math, that's bad. That's absolutely atrocious. That's awful. That's what it is. And you have letterboxing. Okay, whatever. Continuing. Transparency is operated on a further reduced resolution. Remember just a few moments ago, it was a lot of post-processing niceties. You know, it was about how it indulged itself. But now we find that, oh, transparency on objects has further reduced resolution, so geometry occluded by these effects is also of a lower pixel count. Then we keep going. Another image quality concern revolves around the resolution of the volumetric effects. Now, in my previous video, I showed you the actual game, okay, and I showed you this actual footage just without all of the lies of IGN and everybody else, right? And I showed you that 99% of the screen. Okay, let's not be a little bit too hyperbolic there. At least 60% of the screen has some kind of volumetric fog or smoke or smog of there is always some kind of like there's no clear air in this game. There is no just clear transparent air. No, it's always filled of smog or clouds or smoke or other vaguely like vaporous like substances. There's water vapor or some type. There's it's ashes or something. There's always volumetric effects. So this isn't just like a small thing where you can just be like, okay, I'll just ignore that. Okay, if it's not fog, it's darkness, and darkness kind of feels like fog. Like it's just whoa, because it's just usually this was fire and there's smoke. There is always some kind of volumetric effect. It's just is the way the game is. Like even when she goes to like a fucking lake, there's like steam rising off that lake. Like choose your volumetric effect. It is like it's one of those games where you can just choose your effect. It's either fog or it's smoke or it's steam or it's smog or it's darkness. Like there's always some kind of volumetric effect going on, which is good for the atmosphere. But when you tell me that the resolution of these volumetric effects is something that's going to be an image quality concern, I have a concern about that. I do. Okay, let's keep going. Then it says, yeah, the low-lying fog, because like I told you, there's always fucking fog in this game, right? In the footage has artifacting issues. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, give me a second. I'm sorry. But how how is it that a game that constantly has fog has artifacting issues and this is meant to be delivering some truly stunning results? It's meant to be visually no, I'm sorry. It's meant to be one of the most visually exciting games of the year. Okay, that's fine. That's fine, right? Okay, so now the fog has artifacting issues, which means that the smog probably has artifacting issues, which means the smoke probably has artifacting issues, which means that the smog probably has artifacting issues, which means that the veil of darkness that they have probably has artifacting issues. Because again, all of these are volumetric types of effects and suffers from visibly low res rendering. Now when Digital Foundry says this visibly, that means that this is the stuff that you don't need to zoom in for. This is the stuff that a microscope wasn't necessary for. This is the stuff that is just like obvious to you. My goodness. But let's continue now. This is further down in the article, and this is where they try to save face. So the green here are the ones I find a little bit questionable. The red are the ones that are definitely negative, and the blue is what's definitely positive. So let's read just this one little section. It says here, the only real concession in Hellblade 2 comes down to the size and scope of the game. I have so many issues with this sentence. Number one, how is that the only real concern when you just highlighted like 7 different major concerns about the game? How? How is that the only real concern that is about the size and the scope of the game? None of this spoke to the size or the scope of the game, and all of this was concerning. So how is that sentence truthful? How do you not see the lie that they are selling? Okay, whatever. I'm sorry. I'm shouting at you. I should be shouting at them, but I'm not gonna watch this video. So let me just chill, right? Then they say, okay, the size and scope of the game. Here's my issue with this part. You haven't played the game. Do you know that? Do you know they have no idea what the size and the scope of the game is? They haven't played it. They were not given a preview copy. They were given this rendered footage and they were emailed that's it. They haven't touched the game itself. They haven't played it from start to finish. They have no idea about the size and the scope of the game. They're just extrapolating from what we have been shown. There could be a massive open world in this game, and it will be a complete surprise to them, just like it will be a complete surprise to us. And but they're still writing that this is the only real concession. How do you know it's a concession if you haven't played the game for you to be sure that they conceded on that? They could have a massive bazaar in this game where people trade items and you talk to 95 different NPCs and everybody's good and you got side quests and stories. All of that could be in the game. But you wouldn't know because you haven't played it. So how do you call this the concession when you don't know? Okay? And over here they didn't say, oh, it seems to be. It says it calms down. So like you know this for sure. And if you know this because the developers have told you that that's what it is, then at least specify it, okay? But you haven't played the game. This sentence doesn't make any sense. And even if this turns out to be true, well, it definitely as fuck was not the only real concession because you just talked about a whole bunch of concessions. Unless you believe that the developers in the space of about a month are going to fix all of these issues for you, which they could, but I highly doubt it. Okay, this is a 30 FPS game. Okay, no problem, right? That's ambiguous to me. Like I told you, I've told people so many times. My issue with the game isn't even the technical limitation or the technical performance of the game. It's the way that the discourse around this game has been coming out. The rollout has been garbage. The discussion from these media people has been disingenuous and it has been just a whole bunch of lies. But the game itself being 30 FPS, that is up to the individual. It bothers me. Yes, it absolutely does. So if I were to play this, I will play it on PC or I will play it on PlayStation 5 Pro if it ever gets there, or play it on PlayStation 6. Because honestly, after the rollout of this game, I could wait 5 years. Like, I am not pressed. So now it says with no high frame rate options, which may irk some gamers but is reasonable for a game with this level of visual accomplishment. Where does this positive, where does this come from? Where does this positive endorsement come from when you just had an entire, and again, guys, this is just one page on my document, but if you go and you read the actual article, there's far more than just this. I just picked some of the things to highlight the dishonest nature of the article itself. But please go and read the entire thing for yourself. Listen to the video for yourself if you must. And you're going to see it over and over and over again. They highlight concern after issue, after like just deplorable performance. And then they come and they tell you that it's got this level of visual accomplishment, like it was like something that just came down from the heavens and was created by an ancient civilization that was somehow far more technologically advanced. Like it's just a holographic projection of reality into your mind and into your. Bro, what are we doing? Why are we listening to these people? Why do they have the cloud that they have? Why is it that every single gamer, not just gamers, but every single gaming journalist website, what do they hinge upon their words like this? Get NX Gamer to analyze this game. Get more people at NX Gamer. Train them up yourself. Train them in-house IGN. Train them in-house GameSpot. Train them in-house so that you can actually put out verifiably better information. Digital Foundry is not the it of like tech analysis in games. We need better than them. We absolutely do. Okay, then this again, this is the concluding segment. So this whole page here are the concluding segments of the article. I've broken it up a little bit more because some of these sentences just stand out. They need their own little paragraph in my little document, right? Over here says the game's image quality. Okay, and now you're thinking, Emmanuel, why is this negative? Okay, let's continue. At least judging from this preview is a little mixed. Okay, though I think expectations should probably be adjusted given the quality and character of the graphics on display. How do you use quality here and then quality there? But over here you call it mix, and then over here you say given the quality. Like you make it sound like, oh, it's not like, and then over here, like, oh, dude, like, man, look at the graphics. Okay, then it says this is a narrative-focused cinematic title. Now, remember I told you it says here cinematic title, but before they had a problem with the film grain. Where is it? They had a problem with the film grain to the point where they actually wanted to be able to turn it off. So here it is. The film grain in particular seems quite harsh, okay? So right here, they have a problem with the film grain. They wanted to actually turn this off, right? But over here, they are praising it because of the style of game that it is. It's cinematic. Okay, cool. Perhaps similar to the older 1886, bringing up a game, is this from like 2014 or something like that? And it isn't aiming for a super sharp, super clear image. But you were just praising the quality and the character of the graphics on display. So in all of this, you meant it was soft the entire time? Oh, it's not super sharp anymore. But you just talked about the level of visual accomplishment. How do you have these blue sentences here, this level of visual accomplishment, quality and character of the graphics on display, and then you have it isn't aiming for a super sharp, super clear image? Which one is it? Am I meant to praise this game infinitely for what it delivers graphically? Or am I meant to understand that it has serious compromises along the way? Both of those things cannot be true. Both of those things cannot be in this article in this way, presented as if it was just done by one person and then like their shadow self. It's like the Avatar and the Dark Avatar. Legend of Korra, amazing, amazing, amazing. I never watched the Legend of Korra before. You know, it's like it's an amazing show. Like I thought to myself, okay, if they've got Avatar, the Last Airbender, and then the Legend of Korra, whenever it came out, I always thought to myself, you're just going to be retreading the same things again. And I've been watching The Legend of Korra lately because I decided to watch Avatar, The Last Airbender, and I just finished the entire series. Man, The Legend of Korra is really, really good. It doesn't really get the love that it deserves. But the point is, this person, he's clearly got a shadow self going on because I don't understand how you can be saying all of these blue things and then all of these red things all together about the same thing. Then over here, listen, on Xbox Series X, it's clearly a demanding game, but the results still look excellent overall. Like, I'm sorry. I can't. Okay, first of all, from this sentence, you think that the footage that they have been sent is captured on the Xbox Series X, right? I will not put that into perspective or into whatever, right? But then over here it says it's the lower power platform, specifically the Series X, that I'm more curious about. So you haven't seen the Series S. So whatever the footage they just sent you is a Series X version, which is fair enough. No problem with that. I'm fine with it. That's why it's a positive in my color scheme coordination. And you talk about how the results still look excellent. And that's dubious because of everything we just talked about before. But whatever, let's move forward. But it's on the Series S that you're curious about. So you know what this means? This is how I knew that, wait, if you're curious about this is how I knew that this whole dynamic resolution here, this is just the Series X performance. The S, we have no idea. This could drop down to like 640 and 720. We don't know what the Series S is going to do. And yet, Microsoft is doing a complete disservice to their audience because the majority of Xbox consoles are the Series S. And these people, okay, that's what Microsoft's for. Microsoft is doing what they can do best to present the game in the best option. No problem. I don't have an issue with Microsoft. I have an issue with Digital Foundry because they should have highlighted this in the beginning of the article. Because you keep up with sales, you know that the Xbox consoles, the proportion of them that are on Series S far outweighs the proportion that are on the Series X. So you should point out, hey, everything we are saying right now, this is the Series X version, and that should be highlighted at the top. But no, you mask it, you sugarcoat it, you put it all the way down here, all the way until the end, when most people have stopped paying attention. The attention span is long gone, even if that's still on the video, and you are now saying, hey, listen, we've got no fucking idea what the Series S looks like, what the compromises there will be about. And then over here it says here, Hellblade 2 is bound to create some divides as a result of these compromises, but I have to say that I have a lot of respect for Ninja Theory's creative talents and the immense visual accomplishments this title represents. Are you are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? Or are you suggesting that I'm out of mind? And that's what I wanted to do for you guys. I wanted to show you how disingenuous these people are because you can tell just from the by the color coding that this is weird. This is weird. Look at the beginning. It's all great. Again, let's come back to the beginning. Senua's Saga's Hellblade 2 is shaping up to be one of the most visually exciting games of the year. Ninja Theory's cinematic sequel should be making excellent use of Epic's Unreal Engine 5, produces some truly stunning results. Hellblade 2 is just on another level in almost every respect in terms of core technology. The game also indulges in a lot of post processing niceties, including a beautiful depth of field, which smoothly transitions between focal points. Motion blur is similarly strong, without obtrusive sampling artifacts, even when we zoom in on still frames. From this introduction section, right? Would you believe that all of this would follow about the exact same game? The blurring image, the unusually pervasive, artifacts, the quite harsh film grain, the desire to disable that, the image breakup in motion, the less than stellar resolution, the further reduced resolution, and then the further occluded lower pixel count image quality concerns reduction of. Bro, would you believe all of that is about the same game that was introduced by this particular thing? You know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like if you had a child and you went to a private school, okay, and you were quite well to do, so you decided you're going to interview these private schools to see where your children should go. And at one private school, you turn up and they say, "Hey, listen, we are so excited that you are considering us to enroll your son Matthew into our school. Listen, if you were to do this, we will present you with Mark as his personal big brother in the school. He will show him around, and he is one of our exemplary students that really would set your son Matthew on a great path." So they're like, "Oh, okay. Tell me a little bit about this Mark." And they're like, "Oh well, Mark, he's a pillar of our school. Okay, he is an exemplary student all around." And you're like, "Wow, that sounds amazing." So you're saying that if my son Matthew were to come to the school, Mark will kind of take him under his wing and, make sure that he kind of gets his studying regimen and everything like that. He would really show him around the grounds and introduce him to different academic and extracurricular activities that my son could partake in. He would really be there as another point where we could say, "Hey, like, how is like, this is what you're proposing." And I'm like, "Absolutely, absolutely. Let's tell you a little bit more about Mark. Okay, he's going to be great for Matthew." And you're like, "Cool. So, tell me just a little bit more information. What's Mark really like as a student?" And he's like, "Well, listen, Mark. I mean, his attendance is a little bit off the mark. He's got about a 54% attendance rate in the school. Some of his teachers find him to be quite distracted, sometimes quite disruptive in the middle of the classroom. Listen, Mark, he has a little bit of a behavioral problem, amongst his peers. He's seen as a bit of a bully. Sometimes he's not able to kind of regulate his emotions and he has anger outbursts, no matter what it is, and he's quite resistant and rebellious to authority figures. Listen, another thing about Mark is that, look, he barely ever does any of his homework. To be honest, he doesn't really care about school that much. He's capable of doing it, and we find out when he puts his attention to it, he's able to score quite high. He's going between somewhere between a C minus and a B plus. And yeah, we found that he's just he's just a little bit of a thing. He comes with his own set of challenges. That's really who Mark is. He's joined quite a few extracurricular activities and clubs that we have in the school, such as the chess club, the dance club, the acting club, and everything like that. However, the reason that he's joined so many of them is because he's been kicked out of most of them. We've kind of not really found a home for him yet. But in any case, listen, Mark, he's an exemplary student. He's one of our best. Okay, he truly represents the school values. You'd be like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." You just said all of that about Mark, and now you want him to be the role model to my little Matthew? Hell nah. Nah, get out of here. Like, what? How can you be introducing him like that? And then you just have all of those caveats, and then you want to circle back to, "Oh yeah, he's actually the greatest." Yeah, maybe not. Maybe if this is like the exemplary version of a student, maybe this isn't the right school for me. And that's what I feel like Digital Foundry is trying to pull here. They introduce this thing like it is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and then they go in and they say, sliced bread, is it sliced or was it just kind of ripped apart? Is it kind of in crumbs? Some rats have kind of gotten to it. Probably will give you syphilis if you eat it. But it's the greatest thing. You should have a morsel. No, no. Be honest. Be honest. And listen, gamers, okay, I'm speaking to you. I'm speaking to the people that kind of give me a little bit of the time of day. I appreciate that. Thank you for listening. But here's the thing, please stop relying on Digital Foundry. When I told you last video that this game doesn't look that good, it doesn't look good enough to um to justify the Xbox Series X lock at 30 frames per second. I have lots of people, even in the comments of my video, coming with some real bullshit about, oh, Unreal Engine, this, blah, 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 this. But the thing is, I told you all of that before we knew anything about the resolution, before we knew anything about all of this. And remember this, all of these particular negative comments that Digital Foundry has, dared to make in their own article, all of that is off of pre-rendered, like is given to them from the devs. It is handed to them. This isn't them going in the game and then finding these issues. So you're like, okay, well, this is the extent of the severity. No, this is the best of the best. This is the cream of the crop. This is as good as it gets, and it still had this many issues. So what do you think you're going to find in the game? But the thing is, I didn't need all of this to tell you from the trailer that this game was problematic. This preview has been problematic. And I told you it didn't look that good. Stop falling for the lie. The Unreal Engine 5 defense is the new tools that they are supposed to get. Isn't Unreal Engine 5 meant to be one of the tools that they got to maximize the power of the Series X? So how is it that you use tools in one sense? Oh, there it is. Xbox do it. That's what it is. Digital Foundry appeals to Xbox, and Xbox themselves have that duality, that schizophrenic quality with them. Because on one hand, they use the tools to say that once the tools have arrived, like Unreal Engine 5, developers will be able to maximize and show the power differential between the Series X and the PS5. And then on the other hand, they say that Unreal Engine is too heavy a tool set to be used to not to give you a 60 frames or 120 frames per second game. So Unreal Engine 5 on one hand is the thing that will save the Xbox and show the true power, and on the other hand, it is the thing preventing it from using the true power. So of course, if this is your primary audience and they are schizophrenic, then I guess you as the author appealing to them, you would also be schizophrenic by nature. So you can say something like the post-processing niceties, but then also post-processing is artifacts are the issue. My goodness, there it is. I solved it for myself. I solved the case. Y'all are welcome if you were also quite confused. But the point is this, stop using Unreal Engine 5 as a defense. This studio did not have to use Unreal Engine 5. If they use Unreal Engine 5, they did not have to use all of the full suite. They knew from the beginning, like I said in the last video, what this console was going to have. Hell, they were part of Microsoft Studios. They decided what went into the console. Do you guys really not understand the amazingly important role that the first party studio has in the development of new hardware? They tell the hardware team what they want in the game. And this isn't like now where Microsoft has like 300 million studios. No, they had like 9 studios when the Series X was being developed. And one of the key studios, the Naughty Dog, equivalent, was Ninja Theory. They were important as fuck. They decided what went into this hardware, or at least they heavily suggested, and their suggestions were heavily considered by the hardware team. So they knew from the onset what they had to work with. If they purposefully chose an engine that would then cripple the box that they helped to create, that is just worse on them. It doesn't save them from criticism. It's worse. It's worse. It would be like designing a race, and you design all of the rules around the race. You decided yourself what the rules are, how many times you have to pit stop, what kind of tires they use, what compound those tires are made of, what the engine limitations are, what the weight limitations are, whether it will be a rally or a single race or a formula. You decide every single thing around the race, and then you go on and you build a car that is designed to just suck at running that same race. No, that just makes you worse. It makes you dumber. It's not a defense that your car somehow doesn't suit the race, or that this engine somehow doesn't suit the console. That just makes it worse on you because you had a key seat at the design of that console. And again, this is a Microsoft Studios. When do we get you as Phil? Phil, why are your studios doing this? If Ninja Theory did not have the final say at what went to the hardware design, that's fine. But you did, and you had the final say as to what kind of technologies they employ. So why are they using supposedly an engine that is not well equipped to run on your platform? But that's a question that none of us can answer. Okay, that's my thing. The the rollout of Hellblade 2 has been a colossal disappointment. I'm not hating on the game. I'm not hating on the game. I'm not hating the game. I'm hating the rollout of the game because the developers have still not shown us a 10-minute walkthrough of the game. Uncut, unedited, unsliced, unspliced, running from the console. Here is a controller. Here is us pushing the button. Where is the state of play equivalent of this game? Final Fantasy had a state of play. Horizon had a state of play. God of War had a state of play. Where is the state of play equivalent for this game? Where you break it down for us. Remember we talked about the size and the scope? And I talked about this amazing bazaar where you have 95 side quests and all these NPCs will be interacting with one and each other. They have day-night cycles. They have sleep cycles. They have all of these, time of day changes, Is that in the game? Probably not. But isn't it? Who knows? Because we still haven't seen the game. I have no idea what the size and scope of this game is. They say it's an 8-hour game, but having a bazaar where all of these things are happening, that technically doesn't have to lengthen. So of course, if you had 95 cycles, it'd be a longer game. But that's being hyperbolic. But is there a bazaar area? Is there a grand market? Is there a grand exchange like fucking RuneScape? Huh? Is there a big bustling town or village or settlement? Is there a huge camp where we're going to be like, wow, look at all these characters, like for Horizon Forbidden West, when you walk up to an NPC, their face is gonna look like they are the main character. Have you ever seen how great the NPCs in Horizon Forbidden West look? And I'm not talking about like the side quest giving NPCs like that kind of like, I guess they are middle tier in terms of priority. No, I'm talking about random like shopkeeper NPCs. And I'm talking about random NPCs that are just walking, that are just like standing guard. Like, that's what I do. I'm in a video game, so I stand here and I stand guard. I will never do anything but this and say in a few lines, and that's who I am. In Horizon Forbidden West, some of those, not all of them, but some of those look as if they were the main character of games I've been playing the past 10 years. Like, is Hellblade 2 gonna have that? Is there going to be an area like that where there's 40 characters milling about doing their thing, and I walk up to any one of them and I'm like, damn, these guys were right. The cinematic presentation, the animation quality, all of those wonderful words that they were using, that word salad at the beginning, all of that is true. Is that going to happen? I don't know. Because the developers still haven't shown the game. We haven't seen this game. Do you guys know that? We haven't seen this game. We've seen sections of these games. We've seen segments of these games. But we haven't seen the game. Isn't that crazy? So when I started the way they have previewed the trailers and the way the marketing, the rollout, not the game, the rollout of the game has been garbage. The game could be excellent. The rollout has been garbage. Please understand, I'm talking specifically about the way they have marketed this game. It's been awful. This is the console that's supposed to have 12 T-flops, not 12 terrible flops. Not 12 tepid flops. Not 12 torrentially bad flops. It was supposed to be teraflops of power. The monster that eats breakfast. No, it's the monster that eats monsters for breakfast. Hopefully those monsters have gotten to eat breakfast as the last meal before. You don't want it to eat tiny, scrawny little monsters. Huh? Or is that it? It ate 12 starving monsters that couldn't defend themselves. Like that video on Twitter of the lion that was attacked by the two other males because apparently he was the alpha male and decided to like whip his intestines out and start eating it while this guy is still alive. Jesus Christ, animals can be vicious. But the point is, that's what the Series X was supposed to do. You know that, right? The Series X was supposed to tear apart the PS5 and literally eat its SSD while the PS5, the CPU is still alive and ticking. Like, oh, you're killing me. Memory is slowing down. That's what it was supposed to do. It was meant to be a. This console was marketed to be a complete doomsday event for the PlayStation platform. Do you guys remember that? Do you guys remember how heavy the marketing was? Why don't you? Why don't you remember and put them up to that standard? Why is it that now it's a Unreal Engine fault? Why didn't they create their own engine then? Huh? Why didn't they? They're part of $1 trillion company now. Why didn't they just make their own engine that was going to be better? Why didn't they use Forza Tech? Why didn't they license, I don't know, Unity engine or whatever? Like, this is the decisions that they chose. This is the marketing that they had to live up to. And we still haven't gotten it. And if you're thinking to yourself, Hellblade 2 was never going to be that, I agree with you. I do. But the thing is, something had to be that. Hmm? When a person talks about the promises that PlayStation made, you can't point to Spider-Man 2. Just the traversal alone justifies the SSD. It has ray tracing as the only lighting solution in that game. They don't even bother giving you another one. They're like, hey, we did it. We figured it out. Here's ray tracing. The whole game, the whole way through, it doesn't matter which mode you're in. You only have ray tracing. So that thing where they talked about ray tracing, now that's justified. The point is, Hellblade 2 was never meant to be that. But in the absence of the person that was going to be the flagship, then you have to bear that weight. I'm sorry, it's just the way things work. It just is. And I'm so disappointed by the way that we are rolling these things out. So now we went from this game will be remember when they said it was gonna go against God of War? Remember that? And I even put on Twitter, I was like, please chill. Don't put Hellblade 2 against God of War. Let's just be cool about it. But it was still meant to be this visually stunning, amazing narrative adventure. But now we went from all of that to it's only 30 frames per second. It has a resolution less than 1080p. It is letterbox. It's one-on-one enemy mechanics. What if next it has loading times? And I don't mean like 2 second loading times or just transitional corridors where they squeeze through and now remember the squeeze through? Remember how much people hated squeeze through when God of War Ragnarok did it? Why are we squeezing through things? You're just loading this in the background. I hate it. I hate squeezing through things. Oh, I never want to squeeze through again. It was that a yellow paint. Yellow paint. What if this game is yellow paint? Oh my goodness. But what if there's a squeeze through? Are we now going to be as angry about the squeeze through again? Or worse, what if it has style loading times? Like loading times. Like loading times that you're like, oh, I'm in a load screen. Like, when there's a load screen and it's like doop doop and it's gone, you're like, oh, cool, that was a load screen. But like, no, like a load screen, like when there's a load of load screen, like there's a load of loading as load screens, like the kind of load screens where you're like, you have time to like put something on Twitter for load screen. The type of load screen where you have time to like check your Facebook status because you like literally you're like, boy, I'm so bored. Let me see what Facebook is about. Like kind of load screen where you can watch TikTok videos and then realize that the game is still loading by the time you're done with a TikTok video, even though TikTok videos are now getting longer than they used to be. That kind of load screen. What if it has that? We wouldn't know. But the thing is, I wouldn't be surprised. I've been so disappointed by the rollout of this game that now I'm just like, fuck it. Where's all the bad? Put in the yellow paint. Put in the unattractive actresses, character models, whatever it is. Whatever complaint we are having now about the gaming industry, put it in the game because it may as well be in there, right? Because now we don't fucking know. How is this game 30 frames per second? Well, okay. Hey, listen, I'm done. You're done. I'm done. We're all done. You know what? No, the game could be great. I'm just furious about the way. I'm just furious about the way that they've come up with the rollout. I hope that the game turns out to be way better than what they're making it seem right now. But I have no confidence that it will.